Welcome to another episode of Code for Thought. The research software engineering community is reaching regions and countries around the globe, including, of course, Asia. Meet Saranjeet Kaur and Jyoti Boghal, both co-founders of the RSE Asia group. In my discussion with Saranjeet and Jyoti, they take us through the work they have been doing to build an RSE community from scratch, and not just in India. Both have reached out to people from other countries such as, for instance, Pakistan and Japan. But before we go into the interview, I have an important announcement to make. Because the registration and the bursary are now open for the forthcoming RSE conference in the UK. And this year it will be held in Swansea between the 5th and the 7th of September. And now you can register for it as well. And here now my conversation with Saranjeet and Jyoti. Hello, Jyoti, and hello, Saranjeet. Welcome to the show. It's very exciting to have you on board. You are members of the RSE Asia group and community, and that's exactly what we want to talk about today. But before we go into it, maybe you can introduce yourself quickly.
Hi all, I'm Jyoti Boghal. I'm based out of India. I have my studies in statistics, and later on I got into software development, and I got to know about the field of research software engineering via a conference. And since then, I joined hands with Saranjeet in starting work on RSE.
Hello everyone, my name is Saranjeet Kaur. I am a statistician by training and I'm also based in India. I have been involved in a number of communities of practice like Our Ladies and for quite a few years now, and I'm a strong advocate of open source, open science, and RSE Asia is something that like this idea emerged when I attended USAR in 2021, and there's a good long story behind how we built this organization, and I'm very excited to share it with you all and the learnings that we got on our way.
Whereabouts in India are you? Because I understand that you're actually in two separate locations.
I'm based out of a place in Maharashtra. It's a small town called Ahmednagar. It's in western part of India.
Yes, so I am based in northern part of India. I currently live in Gurgaon, which is a part of the, like very close to the national capital of India.
Right, because this is the first time we actually have somebody from India in this podcast, so I'm very excited about this. Saranjeet, you and I met actually in Newcastle at the RSE conference in 2022 in September, where you presented a poster, RSE Asia, celebrating its first anniversary. I'm interested in finding out, how did it all start? You already alluded to the fact that it might be a longer story, so let's get started.
This was when I was attending USAR in 2021, and there was this keynote speaker who was talking about research software engineering. So that was the first time that I heard that terminology, 2021. It was a scheduled talk. I did not know anything about this being a whole community in the UK and how it is flourishing there. From what I felt about that keynote is I can relate to what this person is talking about, but I don't see any community nearby me because I have been involved in communities. So that struck to my mind that there are no RSC communities around me. Anywhere in my state, in my city, country, there was no mention of RSC. So whatever the keynote was speaking about who a RSC is and what kind of work they do, that was very relatable. But then I did not see any face whom I could reach out from my own local region. That keynote really motivated me. I messaged someone from that same conference that how can I connect to the UK RSC group. So I got to know that apparently they have a Slack and there are many people there. There are like groups that are established in different parts of the world or they are emerging. So I started that conversation like how I can create one in my region. That is where I started the conversation. And soon after that, I got to know that there is this program called Open Life Science. And it was like very less time left to put in a proposal. I did not know whether community building proposal would ever get accepted. I was not aware of this fact. I was really fortunate that I got entry to Open Life Science with this project, and that is where things started and got more structure.
Jyoti, what was your route into RSE in Asia?
So I too had participated in USAR conference in 2021, and I got to know about this keynote. I heard it, and later on, Saranjeet came up with this idea. She wanted to write this proposal, so she wrote the proposal to Open Life Science about building community. I just agreed to volunteer in it.
I specifically remember how Jyoti got involved was the Open Life Science program. We had I got selected for cohort 4. In that selection email, I think it was the selection email or somewhere very close to the start, they did mention that if you want to get someone else on your project who you think would be helpful or who wants to contribute, you're welcome to bring them on, even if they did not apply in the first place. So this was a very an opportunity to bring Jyoti in, get some help with the project from the very start. So she has been there since cohort 4 with me.
I think we might want to explain that a little bit to the listeners, what Open Life Science is and what these different cohorts mean. Could you explain that to me, how Open Life Science has helped you building these projects?
First, I'll give a brief idea of what Open Life Science is. Essentially, it is a training and mentorship program for 16 weeks. You don't have to dedicate full time to that work, but if you have any side projects that you're really enthusiastic about and you want to build them using open source, open science principles specifically, you can apply to the mentorship program. You get a period of 16 weeks where it is systematically you are taught how to build a good, decent, open science work. What are the parts that would make it useful for the community? And then you also get a dedicated mentor who is checking with you throughout the journey. Share whatever you are learning, and if you're feeling stuck somewhere, you can talk to your mentor. And somewhere in between every cohort, there is also opportunity to invite experts. They have created a pool of experts and mentors. You can invite someone from the expert pool that OLS have, or you can use the network and try to reach out to someone who you would not get a chance to reach out to otherwise if you are not a part of this program. That is how it is structured, and it is not very hectic to schedule it within your day-to-day life. It's quite easy on that end. They do provide some accessibility benefits if you require anything on that. For example, you require some hardware. So there are some grants associated, small grants, but again, those are also very helpful for some people and quite motivating.
Jyoti, what is your experience then with Open Life Science?
The entire community, the organization called Open Life Science, they are really very supportive. And the entire mentorship program, the best part about it was that it's very structured. They conduct regular calls in the entire duration of 4 months. For 1 week, there is a call with mentor, and alternate week, there is cohort call. So it keeps alternating, and then we can have regular sessions with our mentors. Also, in the cohort calls with the community, important principles are taught, important technical skills are taught, and that helps a lot.
So the cohort are in the sense that the mentorship program runs for a specific period of time. And once that is finished, a new cohort starts. So it's basically a group of people for a particular period of time. How many mentors did you have?
One mentor for one project. And overall, there was a group of other mentors as well in the common calls. There were 4 other people as well.
RSE Asia is obviously starting from scratch, sort of a year ago. Thinking back or looking back over that year, what do you think you accomplished in the last 12 months?
When we first wrote this proposal, it was cohort 4 of Open Life Science, and we had one mentor. And then immediately after that cohort, Jyoti continued with cohort, she applied for cohort 5, and she had one more mentor then. The two cohorts almost covered the first year that we had launched. There was a lot of learning. So I have been involved in community building previously as well, but this time it was way more structured. I had someone with to bounce off my ideas. I had Jyoti, I had my mentor. We also conducted a hackathon on our launch day. So that was in 2021. And then we conducted hackathon again in 2022. So we were essentially participating in Hacktoberfest in both the years. And this year, the Hacktoberfest, like 2022, that we participated, we had arranged contributing hours for 1 hour on every weekday of the month of October. It was open to all the community amongst ourselves, amongst me, Jyoti, and the newly formed working group, which I will share about them. We were doing a lot of infrastructure building. We were updating our website, introducing new pages to the website. Someone is writing blog. Someone wants to update the code of conduct. So like we did all these kind of activities. We can call it low code contributions this time, because that was the theme for Hacktoberfest this year.
So last year, the launch we had, that it itself was via OLS 4, Open Life Science Cohort 4, and along with that, Hacktoberfest. So in last year's Hacktoberfest 2, mainly we both were working on setting up all the digital infrastructure, and along with that, we had advertised on Twitter. Few people had joined back then.
You mentioned that you had previous experience with community building. Could you touch on that maybe? What kind of experiences do you have? You mentioned Our Ladies.
Yes. Our Ladies was really instrumental. So I started a local chapter of Our Ladies in India, in Pune, a few years back, like when the events used to be in person, pre-pandemic. That was a university-based setup. I got a lot of support with getting a classroom or where we could conduct events for the community. Definitely all of that experience helped me to understand what could go right and what doesn't go so right while doing work for the community. So one thing that I learned is that, especially with this kind of community engagement and building work, if you don't get enough support, and if you're trying to build something which is not existing in that region, like people are, first of all, not aware of that term or the importance of that community, sooner or later you will turn out of all fuel and you might feel discouraged in the long run. It is not a very easy path to walk on. What I had learned is that I need to speak to people who have already walked on this path before. And that is why Open Life Science was our mentors. Like over there, the interactions were really, really helpful. And to this date, we continue to be associated with Open Life Science. We reach out to them for any questions that we don't understand, or whenever we are feeling lost about what are the next steps that we should take. And it only develops when you have interacted with people for a significant amount of time. So that isolation of working just for community and not really getting a solution of how to progress or how to take it further, that was something that I felt that I need to improve on that aspect when I was writing the RSE Asia proposal. OLS really helped with like acting like a soundboard for us. So something that a learning that I took from my previous experiences to this one.
What about you, Jyoti?
When Saranjeet had started this chapter in Pune for Our Ladies Pune, initially I used to be a participant, and we had seen that when there were physical events, and because it was a university, we used to get a lot of participation. However, we had started conducting those events around October or November in 2019. Soon there was a pandemic in 2020 and we had to discontinue those events. We tried to have some online events as well, but there was not as much a response as we had received earlier. Continuing that was becoming difficult, and then when we joined OLS, we got a mentor. Having a mentor is what was the bigger change. That is what helped us sustain the community. Anne Foylox was our mentor, and we used to have meetings with her every alternate week. And for almost all the problems, she used to give some or the other solution, either by herself, or she used to tell us about some other person who could help us out with that particular problem.
It's quite a challenge, actually, because, I mean, you mentioned the pandemic, and as you say, face-to-face meetings have the advantage that you get a better connection with people, particularly if you've never met them before. RSE Asia has grown all the same, despite of it, and it's now going beyond India. So how many countries have you got representatives from at the moment? Because it's quite a big group now, isn't it?
When we started, it was me and Jyoti, and we had mentors supporting us. So Jyoti was participating in cohort 5, and her project was on building pathways to onboard new people to RSE Asia. During her project, she collaborated with her mentor and started a plan to create a working group. We both stay as the co-founders. During her project, we launched call for proposals for volunteers to join the working group, and we encourage them to join from different parts of Asia. So I'll hand it over to Jyoti, like how.
After cohort 4 of Open Life Science, we participated in cohort 5, which started in February 2022. There were two objectives. One was to get our organization registered, and other was to have a working group. So for that, we made an advertisement on Twitter and got our responses from there. People did show interest in joining with us. Now we have a community with representatives from Japan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, and India.
That's a huge area, isn't it? I mean, India, the country itself is massive.
So I just want to mention, I don't think we have anybody from Nepal. Like, we did try to reach out to a few people, but we did not get any representation from there. Like, we have from Japan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. There was someone who joined from Hong Kong, but then they are leaving to elsewhere for some work opportunity. And then we also created a code of conduct team. Besides the both of us, there are 6 more people in the working group who are supporting from different parts of Asia. There is still a lot of region left to be covered, but we try to increase the visibility of RSE Asia in different parts.
Actually, for most community work, it happens that sometimes the role gets a little vague, or sometimes a person is interested for some time and then later on they might be interested in some other opportunity. We design the pathways such that whenever a person joins the community, we have different roles within the community. They can be a national representative, they can be in the code of conduct team, and then in that role they can continue for 1 year. After that, if they feel they are interested in the same role, they can continue further. If they feel interested in some other role, then they can work on that. So this way it would keep them active as well.
I would like to move on to the role of research software engineers itself. There's quite a wide range of what it actually means. In the UK, for instance, and in other countries, not just the UK, there are actually specific roles called research software engineers. In other countries, however, it's a little bit more vague, and there are no specific roles for RSEs, but people who identify as such. So what is the situation like in India?
To be honest, I have not come across the term RSE. Like, I was not aware of it unless I attended USAR 2021. So I was not aware that this profession exists, and maybe it exists in industry or people are doing that work, but they don't know that they can be called a RSE. Postdoctoral positions here are sometimes called research associates. Like, they are the people who are very close to what a RSE would be doing. From what I am aware of, I don't know of many opportunities which are published and promoted as a research software engineer role. I would also not be confident in saying that the definition of research software engineer is very clear in our region.
Is that how you got into it, that you were research associates, and that was the route for you in order to get into software engineering?
Not really. I don't call myself a research software engineer in my work. Like, I don't have that job title yet or that kind of profile. It is quite a tricky situation. How I got into it was that I felt relatable to the role of what a research software engineer is. I come from a statistics background. I have written code. I review people's work. I read different kind of research papers from different domains, and I try to provide solutions. This is something that what a research software engineer can possibly do, but it is not my work title, or it is not something which I can find easily in my region.
Jyoti, what is your experience in that respect?
The definition of RSE is a bit vague even now. I came into it due to my previous experience in software development and my studies of statistics and the work that I have been doing on clinical trials. Also, because of my interest in community building.
India, of course, is one of the powerhouses of software engineering. How hard is it then to attract people into science and develop software solutions for academic institutions or research centers?
There is definitely a lot of potential when it comes to this role in India. But again, people are not aware of what they are doing can be called as research software engineering. It is not advertised and it is not looked up to. Like, I don't have an immediate answer. It is going to take time. Like, it took quite some time for it to develop in the UK. For this terminology to spread across the masses who might be interested in this kind of job profile or work profile, it will take some time and it will take some work. I know of any immediate academic institute which is offering which has a RSC team, and they have these people helping others as permanent roles in their institution, and they are helping different research groups. Although there is a lot of potential, that is true, but it is not recognized and people don't realize that they are actually doing that work. And also, looking at software in research as a primary product is itself a paradigm shift that needs to happen. Calling that a research product and giving the same importance to a RSC as they would give to a researcher. This mindset, this change of thought process will take some time and work.
It will indeed, and not just in India. So I think we're struggling still here in the UK with it. Jyoti, you wanted to add something?
There are a lot of people who are very skilled in developing software, and people are at the same time, they go through papers, research papers, but this role itself is called as the work of an RSC. So it's not a well-defined term yet.
Then I guess the main task for you guys is to raise awareness and actually create a language where people can talk about RSEs or research software engineering as at least a role, maybe even positions in future. We're coming towards the end now, and I wanted to ask, now that you've got a year behind you, and that's a lot of work, what is your plan for the next year and beyond?
You rightly pointed out the first task that we have in hand is creating awareness. Next actions for over a year or so are engaging the community, conducting events that people find useful. Like recently, we had a workshop which taught about how to put alt text in scientific articles. The plan is to conduct such events regularly. We have got a fellowship from the Society of RSC, and now we have an independent Zoom account where we can host such events. We use that account to conduct Hacktoberfest in 2022. So it was a month-long contributing arts series, and we tried to promote it as much on Twitter as we could. There is also a maintenance cost associated with it. We are doing this as volunteer work in our free time. We don't want to burden ourselves too much with too many platforms, so we are restricting to just one platform for spreading awareness about this role. We have a working group, and we are also encouraging them to promote the RSC events that we are planning into their regions as well, so that we get more and more participation. There is definitely a curiosity among people who join our events about what is RSE Asia doing, what is this term. The responses during the events are also really uplifting. We might be committing some mistakes, we might be missing a few things, but we are learning in the process. And our immediate plans are to continue these kind of events in more regular fashion. Maybe have some invited talks from experts. So that is the short-term plan. In terms of long-term plan, we seek to develop a proper governance and also more formal structure of how things would work in RSE Asia. Also mentioned about the registration. So she did a lot of research about it. Like we are not planning to register immediately, but yes, we are reading a lot about how it can be done and what are the requirements for it.
What kind of events are you talking about? Are you talking about workshops, interactive workshops, or is it more in a lecture style then?
Hands-on workshops.
Yeah, I would really prefer the workshop pattern, shorter workshops where people get to learn a new skill, or at least they are made aware of some skill that other experts have. The alt text workshop that I was talking about, we got a really nice two speakers who are working on how the blogs that are published. Then they really taught us systematically of how to write alt text for graphs, because scientific blogs and scientific reports include so many graphs and they are not very screen reader friendly. They taught us the how to not write too much in the alt text, but also not write too less. So that was one of the event. And then we started planning for the Hacktoberfest, and the Hacktoberfest was more about infrastructure building and updating our presence on the web. For the events in the future, we are reaching out to a few experts and organizations that we know who would help with workshop, like a short workshop style event where people get to participate and also learn something new and engage more with the community.
Then the Hacktober, is that going to be a regular event in RSE Asia?
For the past 2 years, like in 2021, we launched with Hacktoberfest, so it was there. And then in 2022, it was back again in the month of October. We decided, why not go for it? We also have a Zoom account now, so we don't have to depend on anybody else to provide a account and where we can invite people. So that has really made our life easy to conduct these kind of events, having that account and having the Society of RSC to support us.
Can I just ask a very practical question? How useful did you find platforms like Twitter in community building?
It's the primary mode of communication, and it has helped us since the launch. The launch we had announced over Twitter. When we completed OLS 4 cohort, we announced it over there. Cohort 5, we announced it over there. When we wanted to create the community, the working group, the advertisement we had given on Twitter, and we got replies from there. And for each tweet, we get a good engagement. It makes us feel more motivated.
We are not promoting Twitter for...
No, it's not an advertisement, I understand.
But we have that kind of community and audience already there. That has helped, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Saranjeet and Jyoti, for your time today. And I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having us here and discuss our journey in so much details. We are really happy to share about how the Open Life Science organization helped us to form a structure. If anybody is struggling to build a community in their region, we are happy to talk to them if someone wants to reach out.
So they can find you on Twitter and they can find you on a website, which we will share in the episode notes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, time's up. See you next time. But before I forget, this podcast is covered by the Creative Commons license. See ya.